Welcome back to Rich Words Music, where today we're looking at this. It's the NUX Fireman Distortion. Now, the Fireman is a two-channel overdrive or distortion pedal, if you will, which is based on the Friedman BE overdrive pedal. Now, the Friedman BE overdrive pedal is based on the Friedman BE-100 amplifier, and the Friedman BE-100 amplifier is loosely based on a few different Marshall amps like the legendary JCM 800 and Plexi amps. And so what we've basically got here is a two-channel overdrive distortion pedal which will turn your clean amp into high gain or medium gain Marshall cranked rock and roll goodness. At least that's the idea, and what we're going to find out today is how well the Fireman actually does that. Now, the BE overdrive pedal by Friedman is legendary in the guitar industry now. So many guitar players use it to turn their clean amps into snarling Marshall type machines, and what we're going to try in this video is find out how well the Fireman does that, but also how well it does the genres of music that I personally play a lot as well, because I don't play that much hard rock. I generally play a lot of indie and classic rock, and I do dabble a little bit in metal too. So in this video we're going to try and find all those tones in this pedal. Let me tell you about the controls then. So it is a two-channel pedal. You switch it on here and you switch between the two different channels on the pedal by pressing the foot switch on the left here. On the top row of the controls we have an independent volume and gain for each channel. This is volume 1 and gain 1, this is volume 2 and gain 2. And on the bottom row of the pedal we have 4 different EQ or tone shaping controls, and those are shared between the two channels on the pedal. So from left to right here we have a bass control, a treble control, then we have a presence control which really helps you sculpt those ultra high frequencies in the tone. And on the right we have a tight control, and basically what you do with that is the more you turn it up, the tighter your tone gets. It cuts out those flubby, loose, low-end bass tones as well. So more tight equals more chug. And as you'll see in the playing part of the demo, as I get up to the more metally sort of sounds, I will be turning up the tight knob to keep things chunkier and quicker in terms of response. So what we're going to do then is play this pedal in a bunch of different tones and sounds and styles and genres, and what that requires is different guitars to do justice to those tones. So for single coil tones I'll be playing my Fender Telecaster, and for humbucking tones I'll be playing my Epiphone Les Paul. For the duration of the demo we'll be playing my Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit 200 amplifier on the clean channel, and once we're done with the riffs we'll do a couple of loops, one with each guitar, where a riff loops over and over and I really twist the knobs to their extremes. During the loops as well I will switch the 2 extra switches that we have here on the top. So we actually have the option to switch between true bypass and buffered bypass mode with this pedal, and we also get to switch it between 9 volt and 18 volt operation. The idea behind 18 volt operation being that you get a bit more dynamic headroom. Enough talk then, this is the NUX Fireman by NUX Pedals. Let's play it now and we'll speak in a bit more detail afterwards. Okay then, so that was the NUX Fireman Distortion pedal, and I hope you enjoyed the playing and the tones. And I'm also sure that you'll agree with me when I say that as soon as you turn this pedal on, you're into that thick, chewy, gainy, delicious world of Marshall overdriven tones. So the Fireman really succeeds in that respect. But let me now go in and tell you in a little bit more detail what I like about this pedal and what I don't quite like so much. Well, first off, I have to say the tones. I really enjoy the sounds of this pedal. It does that Marshall thing. So if you're in the market for an affordable medium to high gain Marshall type pedal, possibly with 2 channels, then the NUX Fireman is definitely going to be worth taking a look at. You heard it straight away. I mean, for the first riffs when I turned on the pedal, pedal, I had the channel 1 on the pedal down to 0 gain pretty much, and I had the second one up to almost halfway, I think, and it really kicked in. Even with the single coils on the Telecaster, with the gain almost all the way down, there's no pushed cleans on this pedal. It's straight into medium gain overdrive sounds. With the humbuckers on the Les Paul, it's straight into almost heavy rock tones as soon as you turn the gain on from 0 up to 0.1. It's that much of a push. Now, if you want lower gain tones, I think you're going to have to look elsewhere. I actually have a good recommendation to make for you there. Now, originally when I tried the first Friedman BE overdrive pedal years ago now, there was too much gain in it for me, and I actually ended up with the Friedman Dirty Shirley overdrive pedal, which is a lower to medium gain drive pedal with an internal gain trim pot which I've turned all the way down, and I love the tones that I get out of that pedal. There is a video on my channel about the Friedman Dirty Shirley overdrive pedal if you want to try that later. If there's too much gain in the Fireman though, that's the direction you could consider going in. And I do think that with the humbuckers on the Les Paul, even for classic rock stuff, there's maybe a little bit too much gain in the Fireman pedal to be able to do justice to that kind of a sound. I mean, it did do the classic rock, but it was really heavy classic rock. There was a lot more gain than actually you'd hear players like Angus or Malcolm Young using, for example. You don't need that much gain to play really decent classic rock, and I think there might be a little bit too much, especially with humbuckers here. Now with the Telly, with the single coils, that worked really, really well, and so did the Indie, but again, with the humbuckers for the Indie sounds, I thought this pedal is perhaps a little bit too much. Of course, that's not really what the Fireman is for. What it's for is for the heavier rock stuff, and it did that fantastically well with the humbuckers and with the single coil pickups too. Beautiful, thick, pushed, lots of mids in the tones, really, really nice and assertive and in your face, that classic Marshall sound. As we went up to the metal stuff and I tried the drop D, we turned the gain up to about 3 o'clock, and we turned the tightness up to about 3 o'clock as well, and we actually got some pretty decent chugging metal sounds. Now I think if you were really playing modern full-on progressive metal or something like that, and you wanted a really tight response, you'd probably want to put a tube screamer or something in front of the Fireman to really achieve that sound, but it does do metal, so it's a very versatile pedal in that sense, and I really like the sounds of it. What else do I like about the Fireman? Well, it's built like a tank, it's really, really solid, it's got a nice metal chassis, it doesn't feel like it's going to break, and of course, because you've got 2 channels, it does give you a great amount of versatility. It is kind of 2 different overdrive pedals in one, and if you've got a single channel amplifier, which is mostly focused on cleans, you can make it into a 3-channel amp just by adding the Fireman, so it's pretty cool in that regard. It's also fairly cheap at about €99 or around $100, so very much worth checking out if you're in the market for that kind of thing. So there's a lot for me to like when it comes to the Fireman pedal, but what about the things that I don't quite like so much? Well, there's not that much in that regard, but the one thing that I would change if I had the option to do that would be to give both of the channels on the pedal independent EQ and tone sculpting controls. So both of the channels have their own volume and gain controls, but they share the bass, the treble, the presence, and the tight controls. And I did find that when I was dialing in sounds, when I wanted to find a lower gain sound on channel 1 and a higher gain sound on channel 2, I had to sort of compromise and find EQ controls that worked pretty well for both, but didn't actually work great for both. Now, it's of course possible to dial in great sounds on a lower gain drive setting and on a higher gain drive setting too, but I really would like to have separate independent controls in order to be able to do that. And actually, to talk about Friedman again, the Friedman BE-100 Deluxe pedal has 2 channels that does have independent tone control options. That pedal is of course much more expensive, but it's definitely one to try out if you want those extra tone sculpting capabilities. What else would I change about the pedal? Not much really. As I've said, there's a little bit too much gain on tap for me to do my indie stuff that I like to do, but then that's not what this pedal is designed for, and I would choose another pedal to give me the indie tones anyway, so nothing else really. I do also have to say that when I flicked the switches during the loop section of the video, there didn't seem to be much difference between 9 and 18 volt sounds. I don't think that's a problem really. I think it's something that if you choose one that works better for you, it's going to be your thing. But if you're expecting a big difference between the two and for it to radically shape the tone or the dynamic headroom that you have on tap, it's not going to be that much of a difference. It's like 1 or 2% or something like that. And so overall then, I would have to say that the NUX Fireman is a really, really good 2-channel overdrive distortion pedal. If you've got a clean amplifier, or if you've just got an amp that you want to take into chunky, thick, high gain Marshall territory, then you can absolutely do it with the Fireman pedal. And in terms of giving you 2 channels, there's not going to be much else out there on the market at this price point that is really going to do that and do it as well as the NUX does. You really do get great Marshall tones for anything from classic rock on single coils through to heavy rock, progressive rock, punk rock, and even a bit of metal if you want to do that as well. Now, of course, there are many other options on the market as well. The main kind of inspiration for the Fireman itself being the Friedman BE Overdrive pedal or the BE Overdrive Deluxe. And I would recommend that if you've got more money to check the BE OD pedal out as well, because it is a fantastic pedal. When I first tried it, it had way too much gain for me, but I've kind of come to understand the errors of my ways, and now I understand how to get better tones out of the pedal. And actually, having played the Fireman for the past few weeks, it's kind of given me the bug to try the BE OD again. So perhaps look out for a comparison video between those two pedals coming up soon. But in terms of other companies that make Marshall type pedals, pretty much every pedal maker ever has done one. So what you really need to do is head down to your local guitar dealer, try out all the ones that you can, use your amp and your guitar if you can, and find the one that works best for your usage setting. You might not need two channels, you might need independent tone controls for each channel if you do need two channels. We all have our own individual needs as guitar players, and we all know best what we want and need from our rigs, so you'll have to make that decision. But if you're looking for someone to tell you that the Fireman is a decent two-channel Marshall-esque overdrive pedal, well, I'm going to be that person. I think it's a really decent pedal. It does so much for a very decent price. What more could you really want in that context? I hope then that this video has answered all of the questions that you might have about the NUX Fireman, but if there's anything else you want to know, drop me a comment down there. I shall answer and engage in the discussion to the best of my abilities. And hey, if you're still here watching the video, it would make my day if you would give it a nice little like, or maybe even consider subscribing to the Rich Words Music channel. That really helps. It helps make the channel bigger, helps build the little community that we're starting to build over here. And if you wanted to watch any more videos from me, there's plenty more similar stuff on my channel, and indeed a couple are being recommended to you here and here right now. You can also sub to me by clicking my little face in the corner there. But that's been it for today's video. I've been Rich for Rich Words Music, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.